Greetings, and I thought I would make another video, but instead of looking at me, we just watch nature, but do focus on the words I'm going to tell you, because they are important. They will unlock more answers, because the secret is always in Aries. It's a very good song by Duran Duran called Ordinary World. Now the thing is, most people will hear the spell, not the sound. It's order in Aries, the ordinaries. Because if you do not have order in Aries, you have chaos. And that leads to two things. They're the Altais, and then there are the Aries. So you have the nation Altais, the nationalities, the race Altais, the racialities, the race hatred, and so on. And then you have the mercenaries during the night. You have the mission Aries spreading the fake religions, which will lead to semen Aries. And of course it's all written by the script writers, the secret Aries, the secretaries. And they will inscribe it and commit it to paper. And they will tell you their false version with the document Aries. It's often said that there are a lot of satellites around up there, and yet no one ever sees them. But, oh, they're there all right. They just haven't told you the whole story. The satellites are up there. They're on sides of buildings. They're on sides of cell towers. They're attached to dishes. They are satellite dishes. They're picking up the signals from cell towers. Just look at the way a satellite dish points. It doesn't point up to the sky. It points to the nearest cell tower. It's quite easy to work these things out when you start looking in the right direction. There's a lot said on Facebook and in the media, the corporate media, about declining numbers of insects and birds. Well, as I've said before, you create the world around you, and although the numbers are still down, they're up on next year. There are more bees, there are more birds. I've left more dandelions because they are essential to bees. All these things they tell you are bad. A dandelion is a weed. No, it's a flower. Anything that flowers is a flower. It's just when you put a judgment on it, or you are told to put a judgment on it, it changes the perception on things. None of this is difficult to work out when you start looking at this in the most simple terms. When you think out of the box, instead of being boxed in by the education system, things become far easier. I'm going to quote another song, some lines from a song to you, the script for A Jester's Tear. Bear in mind that the jester also can be called the fool. So it says about the fool who escaped from paradise, looked over his shoulder and cried, sits on and chews on daffodils and struggled to answer why. Well, the daffodils are a reference to spring, which is in Aries, and you chew the idea over, and it shouldn't be a struggle to find the answers to these things. It should be very simple, but it's all deliberately to mislead. And then generally to everybody else, as you grow up and leave the playground, so you lose your inner child. As you grow up and leave the playground, you kiss your prince and find your frog. That's been fooled by the religions. You see, you need to have both logic and compassion to work this out and be in the middle. You can see the satellites in the depictions as being like headstones of the mind. The headstones on the ground are the headstones of the physical body. Between the two, you get to the heart of the matter. See, the order in Aries, the ordinary world, if it's not ordinary, it can be boring and mundane and you don't want to do it. But boar is another name for Tor, the bull, or Taurus. The opposite of that, by which you can find out what is ordinary, is the exciting things. Now that is giving you or you are giving an emotion to it. Whether you think something is boring or exciting, you are empowering it by giving it energy. It's as simple as that, which is why you have to stay neutral. There are so many things that are so easy to explain. How can a woman be a virgin and also a mother? That's the easiest one to explain of the lot, because we are two in one. It's all about duality. We have a reality in the mind and we have a reality in the physical body. So yes, you can be a virgin and you can be a mother all in one. But like everything else, they try and trick you and tell you that you're looking for a singular being when it is all of you. You're all sons of God because you are all beings of light. Another question that people want the answer to and no one is looking in the right place for is, where do we come from? Well, again, just look at the ABO blood system and you'll see that everybody is very different. And if it's a serious question as where do we come from, I'll give you a serious answer. You can choose between A or B or O for Orion's belt. So that begs the question, when you see a person in the terms of their soul rather than the physical body, where are the aliens on this earth? Why are they always depicted as looking so totally different when they are all around you everywhere and yet nobody can see them because man was created in God's image? It's a play on words all the time. The answers are really that simple, and yet so few can work it out. But you just listen to the words, listen to the sound, don't listen to the spell, because otherwise you will be kissing a frog and you will be kissing a prince and finding a frog. And note the reptile reference there in that one. But just remember the gesture that showed you a script for tears. I'll leave that there because you may want to listen to this again and just think about what I'm really saying here. Because the answers are not difficult. Everything can be explained very easily. All the so-called miracles in the Bible, all the depictions of angels, everything. It can all be explained very easily. It's not as difficult as it appears to be. That is the illusion of darkness, to make it appear difficult, because they don't want you to find the answer. If you're from the truth-seeking side, you may go down various rabbit holes and you might be looking for answers in number sequences and things, and you're never going to get the answer. It will show you a plan with the Gamantras. Just watch what happens on August the 10th and 11th that's coming up soon. You'll see. You'll see things are very different. Or some of you will. It's a crazy, crazy world, and it's, again, even that is flipped over. The ones that are telling the truth are called crazy. But they're not, and it's very easy to explain. You can accept the way you are told history. But if you look at the ancient pyramids of South America, now bear in mind this was done in 1890, so you can add over 100 years, 120 years onto this. The trees that are growing out of those have got tree rings. Now everybody will accept that you can date the age of a tree by a tree ring. And it's shown that those trees are 800 years old. And they're not the first generation of trees. There is at least one more. So you're looking about 1700 years before these pyramid structures in South America were abandoned. And yet the new world, which is actually the old world, we're told starts with Christopher Columbus. But even if you get people to see that, they will then not look any further. It won't lead them on to look, or most of them won't continue to look on and look at everything else and see that everything is a mirror, and what we're told is one thing is the opposite of the truth. So who are the crazy ones really? That is what you have to ask yourself. Some of you will be able to convince other people and show them and present to them the facts that are there for everybody to see, which they will be in agreement with. But then there's another element comes in. They still won't speak openly of it because they are fearful of what other people think of them. And this is how the fear system works. It relies on you going along with this system. And if you allow fear to not let yourself speak out and tell the truth, or the truth as you see it from what you find, then that holds you back. You need to be true to yourself, because that is your only debt. It is what you owe to yourself to find out the truth. And through that comes empowerment. And the perception of the world changes totally. And you do move into a new reality, and yet you are still in this reality. It's quite a bit to think about there, so I hope you enjoyed the pond life view. There's not much about at the moment. Water boatmen and flies, maybe. I think it's too hot for the dragonflies. All the birds are taking shelter. I can hear them chirping in the bushes at the back there. But again, look at nature. The dandelions have closed up because it's too hot. The birds are taking shelter in the shade of the cool of the tree and don't venture out in this heat, and yet we're expected to work at the same pace as if it was in winter. And while you go along with that, you are moaning about it's hot, because you're in a vicious cycle, because you are told that cold drinks are good for you. What you're actually doing is you are making your internal organs feel the greater difference to the outside temperature. Why do you think in certain countries they eat hot food? And why do you think it's a good idea to drink hot drinks, or at least the same temperature? Because you will feel the heat more with a cold drink in the hot weather. And by having a cold drink, you start off a vicious cycle where you sweat, which means you start to dehydrate, which means you want another cold drink, and so the cycle begins. But if you have hot drinks, you won't sweat so much. This is why in temperatures of 40 degrees centigrade I can walk around with a leather jacket on. Everybody else looks at me like I'm crazy, but they just don't understand, because they don't understand the human body. Anyway, there's plenty of information there, so I'll leave that there. Thank you.